utilities to other sources of income to help pay the bills. And we'll work with them on making payments, and this happens to be a bankruptcy issue in the making also, so this is a means to protect the city. But in most of the time, people are pretty decent to work with if you give them an opportunity to work out a payment plan and stuff, but sometimes you just can't work with them, so.
If they don't work with us at all, then we'll move to this faster. But if they're working with us, we would hope that the council would be supportive of, you know, not putting on their taxes, just trying to figure out a way to work through it. But ultimately, I think we have to make the call, like in this case, where you just say we've tried repeatedly, and it's gotten to the point where we have to make sure that we're being covered, because we don't want to write things like this off.
I'll move to pass resolution 2013-061.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Bunky, second by Mr. Colvinson. Any question or comment? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the motion passes. 8G, consideration of hiring the following personnel for the 2013 Aquatic Center season, pending all lifeguard certification paperwork being in order. Manager Stephanie Wick. Lifeguard and/or water safety instructors Kevin O'Donnell, Brad Ebner, Emily Klobes, Katie Wolter, Audra Lee, Emily Culhane, Alyssa Arns, Leah Leeson, Cale Stensgaard, Charlie Grambier, Alex Dix, John Klobes, Blake Lawston. Council has already set rates of pay for personnel based on years of service.
I'll move to hire the list as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bunky, second by Mr. Dahl. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All opposed? And the motion passes.
I suppose I should have included a formal motion to start summer too. But we'll wait.
Well, we set the agenda a while ago.
Agenda has been set.
We're authorized 1 day of summer tomorrow, and then we revert back to spring for a while.
Based on our schedule, we can't do that till the 28th. So. All right, let's move on to 8H, consideration of adoption of resolution 2013-062, calling for a feasibility study on the capital improvement project for Trunk Highway 43 Mill Street. See attached resolution.
And this is required because we're anticipating using state statute 429 for part of the reimbursement. And so because of that, we have to order a feasibility report.
So is that updated then as you go on the project?
No, the feasibility report just talks about, it lays the groundwork as to why you're doing the project.
Oh.
To satisfy chapter 429,
So it's just one, all right?
just one.
One feasibility, and that takes care of the,
For the city's portion, correct, yep. And then, as you'll see next, is the feasibility, or is the capital improvement project. So it's the facility plan. These are all required because of the different types of funding sources that we're looking at using.
so when will we find out the approximate cost of the whole,
When they put the bid package together,
and how soon is that gonna be?
that would be this early winter.
When they bring the feasibility study, it'll probably have some estimates
Yeah,
in there.
it'll have
Engineers'
estimates.
estimates of what it's going to cost to do the project. And then that's what you can use to do your potential financing packages with.
Of course, course, we won't know the final number until the bids are in, but the best engineer's estimate will be the one just prior to going out for bid.
I make a motion to accept the resolution of the feasibility study.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Colbison, second by Mr. Dahl. Any questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the motion passes, thank you. 8I, consideration of adoption of resolution 2013-063, calling for a public hearing on the draft facility plan for capital improvement project, sanitary sewer for Trunk Highway 43 Mill Street, see attached resolution.
And council, this is ordering the hearing for the sanitary sewer portion. I believe that the facility plan is needed because of the funding source, correct, Kathy?
For PFA
For
sewer.
PFA.
Yeah. Don't have to do it for water, but you have to do it for sewer.
Right.
Do what?
You have to hold a
Have
public hearing.
Public hearing.
Why isn't the water included?
You just don't, it's one of the PFA rules. You don't have to do this facility plan for water. You just have to do the plan for sewer. That's just one of their rules. So if we're going to try to get some low-income funding from them, we have to
We
go
have to
through
hold a
these
hearing.
steps, you know.
Okay.
So that involves a public hearing at the next meeting.
I'll move to pass resolution 2013-063.
Motion by Mr. Bunky, second by Mr. Colbinson. All in favor of the motion, say aye. All opposed? And the motion passes, thank you. Let's move on to number 9, ordinances. 9A, consideration of any further amendments or changes to the proposed trees, trails, and park ordinance as reviewed during the public hearing. No changes are recommended. Consideration of the revocation of the ordinance establishing a commission to plan and supervise the development of the parks and recreation facilities for the city of Rushford, and amending the tree ordinance for the city of Rushford to be retitled a trees, trails, and park ordinance, and to provide for additional board duties. Amended and retitled ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage and publication. And we're condensing it all to just this little page and a half.
That's good.
Does anybody have any?
That's with all the whereases, I mean, the underlying documents are still there. The one concern that I always have is anytime you call something a board, so, oftentimes that has some sort of statutory authority. A tree board or a park board, for example, does have statutory authority with the state. This is different. This is very clearly an advisory board of the city council. So by adopting this ordinance and posting it and creating this trees, trails, and parks board, it is not conferring upon them the ability to act as a board under the statutory authority, go out and bond, for instance, on their own, that type of thing. I think we're just using the term board because it's probably the best way to preserve the tree board under the Tree City USA ordinance requirements, and it's also a little shorter because it's long enough already.
How does it look?
Looks good.
And I think we left it sufficiently ambiguous that trails can be anything. It can be, so the council could ask them to look into ATV trails or bike trails or walking trails or snowmobile trails or whatever.